Welcome to Toffee Blue View, your source for all things Everton. I'm Jerry, and I'm joined today by the brothers McAllister. I've got Terry and Paul and Terry, if you want to be alphabetical about it. Gentlemen, how are we?
I'm good, man. Thanks. Glad to be back on.
Right on. Paul, you okay?
I'm fine. Still frustrated about the result, but other than that, not too bad.
Yeah. Saturday was sort of frustrating. We had the Huddersfield boredom non-game, whatever you want to call it, paint drying, and then like right after that, I had to go off to my kid's game where, he played keeper for the first half, and he doesn't normally play keeper. And the second half, he was kind of not playing like his normal self. So I just was in like the worst. I went home and cleaned up a storm, gentlemen. Get the negative out. Get the bad vibes out. Huddersfield. Reaction. Did either one of you guys actually get to go to the game Saturday?
I did.
I didn't, unfortunately.
All right, Paul. Let's not dump out all of our problems just to begin with. Could you start with and point to one problem that led to us not grabbing 3 points on Saturday?
Huddersfield were just very, very well organised and did a job on us, basically. I think a lot of it owed to the fact that Huddersfield played very, very well. A lot of our top players played badly because Huddersfield made them play badly. I thought it wasn't a case of we were getting a lot of chances and just wasting them, or a lot of players were just... I mean, players had off days, but it wasn't a case of where any other day, if Huddersfield played like that, we'd have beaten them. I think our best team would have found that hard. I mean, I think if you'd have had 2 or 3 players available who weren't available, we probably would have just got the job done, got over the line. But I think Huddersfield deserved the due there. They really played well and a lot better than I thought they were going to.
So Paul's main issue is the fact that Huddersfield set up to frustrate. It had a solid game plan, and they executed that game plan. That is not where I was expecting you to go, and I think it's a fair point. Terry, one problem that led to us not grabbing 3 points.
Lack of creativity, I think, and I think if we've got all of our players available, that Richarlison, Bernard, players like that, I think when teams come to your ground to do a job like that, you can't try and do what we did try and do, which was put Niasse on and put 2 up top. You can't go linear with your attacks. You can't be predictable because teams like that love to defend against crosses, balls straight up the middle. You need someone with a little bit of flair, a little bit of skill to unlock a defense like that. And the better we get as a team, the more attacking, the more settled we become, the more teams will try and do this to us. This is where Roberto Martinez first started to go wrong, was teams started to expect Everton to play great football around them, so they just made themselves hard to break down and deep, and he never found the answer to that. I'm not suggesting that will continue as a problem under Silva, but it's something we're going to run into again. And I think when we've got all of our players fit and more of a well-gelled team, I think we'll be more capable of breaking it down. Whereas I just think the pieces, the players we needed to unlock that door on Saturday weren't there. We can't speak for every player, especially the new ones, whether they're going to be good or not. But even ones we do know about, Richarlison, a full game from Walcott, they may have made the difference to get that final pass, that final ball. It was, I agree with Paul, a good performance by Huddersfield, but one that came a little bit too early for us. If we'd have had this in a few weeks, 4 or 5 weeks, we may have broken them down.
Another good point. So Terry's pointing to fitness and availability, but additionally, I guess cohesion as well. I honestly, rewatching that game today, it was such a careless, sloppy performance where we were giving the ball away, trying to thread the needle with some of our passes that weren't there. And the ones that were there just making silly, misplaced passes by, 3 and 4 yards, just wide margins. And as you know, very often this can be a game of inches. All right, and it was just not inch perfect precision when it comes to, and there were players that I feel like typically execute that were not executing this weekend. And when it's a sloppy performance, number one, you have to blame the opposition some. You have to think Huddersfield were frustrating us. So I think go back to your point, Paul. But I'm wondering mentally, because we've seen some of this sloppy, careless play before. We saw that against Bournemouth as well, at least in the first half. And I'm wondering if it's a mentality thing. I'm wondering if it's a mental preparation thing where we are just trying to play so quickly, but we're not able to do that. I mean, Davis is a good example. Right? He gave the ball away a lot on Saturday. But we're not getting into him right now. We have a whole segment for him coming, so stay tuned for that. So yeah, mine is just is careless and sloppy play, not actually being focused on what you are at, being mindful of what you're doing. So yeah, man of the match, to go a little more positive. Terry, who was your man of the match on Saturday?
Probably Kurt Zouma. I think he really impressed. He looks the part. He looks like he's going to be a good fit at the back, and it was hard to pick a standout performance because the rest of the team were laboured somewhat. I mean, I just think things not coming off, they're trying to force it. So the only one who looked comfortable, well, the only one of the few players who looked comfortable, which was Zouma, but Digne runs him close.
Paul?
Yeah, it's take your pick between Digne and Zouma, but I would just edge it towards Digne because he got another assist, another brilliant ball into the box for a goal. Again, looked unflappable, was always in the right position, did everything that was expected of him, and he was kind of left on his own for large periods of the game. Calvert-Lewin was kind of not really playing out wide. He was more of an inside, tucked in type of wide forward. So Digne basically had to play left back and left midfield for large periods of the game on his own, and he coped well. He didn't run out of legs, I don't think. I mean, I'd imagine that's why he was brought off, because he played 90 minutes in the week and Silva didn't want to overload him, but I think he could have been left on and been absolutely fine. So Zouma was impressive, very impressive, but I think Digne takes it for me just on the account that he assisted another goal, and he just looks really, really unflappable and really, really comfortable in that position, and I want to see him stay at left back for a good long time.
Those are the two names I wrote down. Evidently, we all watched the same game, which is comforting.
Yeah.
My initial thought was give it to Digne because of the assist. And that is, but however, Zouma played the whole match, whole 90 minutes. And but yeah, if I'm going to be not wishy-washy and have to pick one, I'm going to say Digne. That's what I'll say. Should anyone be dropped after that performance, guys? Or was that just kind of an all-around team? You know what I mean? Was that, do you look at certain players and say, let's bring someone else in for the next one after the break? Paul, what do you think?
Well, it depends on what you define by dropped, because I think there's quite a few players in that team who wouldn't be playing if all the players were fit. So it's basically, you're saying, do you think these players deserve to be demoted? Basically, do any of those players need to be told, right, that was not good enough, you're not going to play for a certain amount of for this period? No, I don't think any player deserves to be really chewed out over it, or nothing to any great extent. But there's definitely some players who are looked at and thought, yeah, you don't belong in our strongest 11. I think there was at least 4 players who I think, if everybody's fit, I think you belong on the bench, and you wouldn't be the team. You don't belong in Everton's strongest 11. That's what I'd say. There's quite a few players there who prove that when all the other players are fit, they don't deserve to keep their place. But I wouldn't say dropped as in demote them and run them down and make them feel worthless. I think they just kind of have to be, what's the word? Use a bit more sparingly.
That's a kind way of saying it. Terry, what do you think?
I wouldn't go as far as to say dropped, as in like anyone played so badly that they need to be sort of blacklisted, but some of the players there clearly are preferred positions in their preferred choices in their position. So, for example, when Richarlison is back, you're not going to get Calvert-Lewin on the left, and when Gana Gueye is back, you're probably not going to get Davies in the team straight away. That doesn't mean, oh, that's it, they were terrible, drop them. But everyone's on a clean slate, but there clearly are players who, until proven otherwise, are better than others. So I think if we came back from the international break and everyone was fit, I think there'd be 3-4 changes to that team.
I agree with you guys. I guess the reason for the question is that it's not an abandon all hope, ye who enter here type of scenario. We were having to fill some gaps. Although it was kind of a watching milk curdle type of performance, it still could have been worse if we're going to be... It's a crappy way of being positive, right? But it actually could have been. And I think if we kind of keep that in mind, our depth hopefully will be growing from experiences like this. You know, Davis is depth, and he is 20. So players like Calvert-Lewin, what are we going to do with that guy? Because he's playing and he's scoring, and Richarlison comes back. What? You know, so it's going to be interesting to see if Calvert-Lewin or Richarlison swap out with Tosun just to give us a different type of a look late on in the game. Curious, just saying. Just to go ahead and lay this out there, not super enthused about the officiating at this one, guys. I thought Huddersfield time wasted going early, very early in the first half. They were just chilling on throw-ins, just hanging out, just taking their sweet time. It's pretty frustrating to watch, to be honest with you. Paul, I can imagine being at the ground. That would kind of anger you as well.
I had it at 15 minutes when they first started doing it. 15 minutes, and their goalie was already, you know, kicking the ball, rolling it very slowly back to the 6-yard box where he's going to take the goal kick, walking all... when the ball boy throws in the ball, picking it up very, very slow and carrying it back, and their throw-ins, you know, their player, whenever they get a throw-in, the guy who's not taking the throw-in would pick the ball up, walk 5 yards away with it, and then roll it along the floor back to the guy who's going to take the throw-in. It's just time wasting, and it was really, really frustrating. But as I said back earlier on, if you're Huddersfield and you're going into that game, that's exactly what you'd want from your team. They came to get a positive result. They got a positive result. And it's just, the onus is on us to break them down. We should have known they were going to try and do that. I said last week during the previous pod that if they came and tried to play very positive and were playing open, I think they were setting themselves up for a hiding if they did that, and I didn't expect them to. Yeah. And lo and behold, they didn't. They just came. They came. They saw. I wouldn't say they conquered, but they succeeded in what they came to do. They chose the smart tactics. They had the right game plan, and every player in that team to a man seemed to pull it off perfectly, and they got the points that they came for. So again, in future, we're going to face that again. We're going to face those problems again. We can't just keep complaining, saying, oh, it's not fair, the other team are taking too long, they're time wasting. Well, as the attacking team and as the home team and as the better team, the onus is on you to go and take the 3 points yourself and score and make it so they can't waste time, because they have to catch up to us. They wouldn't be time wasting if we took the lead at any point in that game, and we didn't. We had to chase them all game. So, to sum up, really, I don't blame them one bit for doing what they did. Frustrating, but that's just what teams have to do when they're down there and they come to a big team and their backs are against the wall.
You see something like that, and you expect it. You do expect it, and you kind of, I mean, like Paul said, I don't necessarily know that I blame them. I guess who I point to are the officials. Who they're the ones who can do something about it. I'm trying to figure out what, besides playing well and taking advantage of your opportunities, as the team who's being kind of screwed out of time, the officials can do something about that, or we can execute better. What do you do in a scenario like that when the other team's wasting time? Do you start crowding around the other team and start yelling at them like a lot of the teams in other leagues do? What do you do in that case?
If you want a team to stop time wasting, just take their advantage off them. If you go ahead, like Paul said, if you take the lead, they can't do it. What's the point? They're defending a defeat. So, I honestly, time wasting is only effective if you're drawing or losing as yourself. If the other team are winning, they were drawing for the majority of that game. They only led for about, was it 90 seconds or whatever it was, a very short amount of time they had the lead. So for more or less all of that game, they were defending a point. If at any stage we could get through them, we could find a way through, and we'd went in the lead, they wouldn't have been doing it. So, I mean, I could go on all night about how poor the officiating has been so far in the league on several different aspects. So it's just been poor from the start of the kickoff throughout the season. But that's always going to be the way. You're always going to get inconsistent referees. There's no VAR. There's no trick that'll stop teams time wasting. They'll always do it. So just take the advantage of time wasting off them.
All in agreement here. What you have to do is create more opportunities and actually execute them. When you need to. We weren't creating many opportunities, and the ones we did create flew over the bar. So yeah, I will point out Tosin getting punched in the face. Yeah, that's a thing that happened. Yeah. And Mounier took a swing at Holgate after Holgate had been holding onto his shirt. Literally turned around and did that to him. Didn't hit him, but it's okay to do that in the Premier League. Don't nudge anybody with your forehead, though. That's the lesson here. All right?
Yeah.
You can take a swing, just don't let it hit anybody.
Unless you're Phil Bardsley against Man United.
I was trying to explain that situation to my 6-year-old son, trying to explain why one got a red card and the other one got to just take the person's legs. You know what I mean? It's so hard to explain to a 6-year-old because he thinks it's dumb.
But even after that, they put heads together and Bardsley puts his head in forward more aggressively, well, about the same, if not a little bit more aggressively than Richarlison did. And he got a yellow card for the identical offence just because Rashford retaliated. It's just the referees are ridiculous. That's the worst one of double standards I've ever seen. Same offence, two players got different punishments.
It's not right when an official can just make a really bad call and then he can just walk off and have to explain himself. That wouldn't be tolerated in any other line of work that I can think of. If you are getting things wrong that badly consistently, then something will happen. Whoever is in charge of the referees, whoever's deciding your Premier League quality level refereeing, you only referee the Premier League games. Whoever decides that, I think it's Mike Ashley still, not Mike Riley, I think his name is Mike Riley, the former United guy. I think he's still I can't remember what his title is. He's the head of the referee association. He's been in charge for about 10 years of that, and the last 10 years, officiating in this country's gone down the toilet, and it can't be a coincidence. Just referees, I understand they've got a very hard job. I understand that what they have to put up with is something that the average person probably wouldn't be able to deal with, but there's just too many referees in this country, officials as well, linesmen are quite bad. They just make terrible calls consistently, and they're not reprimanded, seemingly, and whenever anyone calls them out on it, whether it's a manager, whether it's a player, whether it's a pundit who used to be a player, whether it's even a TV presenter, they suddenly get people screaming at them saying, oh, you can't say this about referees, leave referees alone, referees are the victims, blah, 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 blah. No, I'm sorry. I agree with some of that to a point, but there should be a point where a referee is held accountable and he should be forced to sit in a studio and say, okay, why did you make that call? And do you feel the same about that call now that you've watched it back on TV? Because one referee's mistake could be the result in a team getting relegated, or it could be the result of qualifying for the Champions League and not qualifying for the Champions League. It could cost the club millions based on one person's human error. And if he makes a human error, they should be forced to explain themselves for it. So that's just where I stand. Referees, I really want to see some more responsibility taken by whoever is in charge, the FA, the Referee Association, whoever is in charge of this. Just you have to do something because this standard is terrible.
Are there any songs or chants about poor officiating? Is that something that actually happens? Please tell me that happens, because I don't hear it, but it's hard to actually understand the words when you're watching on TV. But there has to be.
Yeah, there's The referee's a wanker. It's quite the common one. It's very British, but yeah, if the referee's a wanker, it's the most widely used.
Okay.
And yeah,
there was a one-off funny one a couple of years ago. I think we were playing Arsenal, and someone was shouting. It was kind of a spare of the moment type thing. Who's the Cockney? Who's the Cockney? Who's the Cockney in the black? And he was giving them absolutely everything. So that was just a spare of the moment one. But yeah, the one Terry said.
Because I feel like it's been pretty merited lately. 3-word reviews. All right. The question was put out on Twitter. What are your 3-word reviews on this particular match? Mr. Blue Sky at Bobby BEFC said work in progress. That's fair. Paul Shanahan at Paul Shaners 10 says Zuma looks good. Yes, he does. Earthling Paul at My Only Everton says we'll be all right. He used a contraction, so technically it's 3 words. Adrian at Adrian Hogg says on to the next. Simo S-I-M-O at on Andy Simo 5 says zonal skid marking. I think that's my favorite. That's gross
like that, yeah.
and so apt. And Big Mo Schneiderlin Yellow Streak at Charlatan EFC asks, is Allardyce back? It really felt like it on Saturday. Just really quick, we will say Lookman did play. That happened. That is something that happened. Lookman played. So, actually almost set up a goal, too. So, yeah, could have been worse. All right, so I guess that's it, guys, for our Huddersfield reaction. Ran a little long. What can you do? Yeah, if you've been digging our videos, please subscribe. Surpass the 1,100 mark, and we're trying to keep plugging away. So tell your friends and stuff. Or if you've been watching for a while and lurking and not subscribing, just subscribe, and so then you'd have all your videos in one place. It'd be really easy to get to. All right. Check out Paul. Paul's got some work on the Toffee Blues website, but he also has some stuff on the Liverpool Echo fan jury, and the same thing with his brother Terry. Okay? I'm sure if you check their Twitter feeds, you can find everything you need from these guys. Yeah. Gentlemen, let's go talk about Davey, shall we? All right. Bye.